Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. Tonight we've just witnessed Celtic going out of the Champions League qualifiers in Kazakhstan to Kairat Almaty. The warnings were there for everyone to see, but we kind of retained our optimism as fans, and we went through another 90 minutes goalless, extra time goalless, penalties. It just didn't go in our favour, and now we're out. Now we're in the Europa League, and the Kazakh team have just had the best night in their history. We've lost out on money. We've lost out on prestige. Us as fans were absolutely gutted, and I guess tonight we're here to dissect that, do an autopsy, probably vent as well. To anybody in the comments, tell us what your thoughts are for tonight. Obviously disappointed, so gutting. Anthony, James, thank you for joining me. Who wants to start off? What was your main takeaway?
That was a calamity, for use of a fucking pun there of some kind. As Thomas says, worst performance in European history. It's fucking up there. It's absolutely up there. You'd have to go back to Gordon Strachan kind of territory for something that could be as fucking piss poor as that. We made comments, especially obviously young James here made comments in the group chat about how poor both sides were. You know, I think Gavin, even yourself said at half time UEFA should just fucking call it quits on both teams and just pump us both out. It was even last week, that is collectively the poorest games of football I've seen us play in a seriously long time. Like, there was no urgency, tempo, there's no skill involved in it, there's no football, there's no flair, there's no excitement, there's no passion. You know, 180 minutes plus 30 minutes extra time, as you say, 0-0 all the way through. It looked like even penalties at one point was going to be fucking 0-0 all the way through. That's how fucking drab that game was. You really wouldn't have fucking bet against it being a 0-0 penalty shootout after 5 penalties. It was fucking horrendous. There's
a lot of emotion right now in the chat right now. A lot of emotion, Graham Bell. You don't replace your best striker and your best winger, you're asking for trouble. Operation downsize complete. That is it. That is Operation Downsize. Brendan was talking about like we're a ball here away for going into extra time with Bayern Munich in the Alliance Arena, and he's talking about progressing, not just maintaining, progressing. And right now we have seen a cataclysmic downsize. James, emotions are running high. I guess we should guard against that. But where are you? What's your thoughts, man?
To be honest, I think I'll further up in the comments hit the nail on the head. I think, in my opinion, the damage was done last Wednesday. I seen people last week saying 5 or 6, and we can rest players the night with the view of going to Ibrox on Sunday. And I don't think I've been on here for the last couple of weeks, but it was just something that I never subscribed to. I don't think that forward line is taking 4, 5 or 6 off anybody, let alone anybody in Europe. So I can't say the night's game was a massive shock. Last week obviously we were at Parkhead, we absolutely struggled to create anything, probably barring Maeda's chance at the end. We never actually created anything, and then when you factor in the fact that obviously we're travelling, you're going through 4 different time zones, and obviously they've then got home advantage, and it was just a rinse and repeat of last week. I think I said in the group chat that could arguably be the worst game or games you've ever seen in the history of the sport. I mean, I think that should be a form of fucking punishment. You should be sentencing that in court to watch the 2 games back. But I honestly can't say that I'm surprised. And as you say, emotions are high tonight, and I know that everybody's getting it, arguably rightfully so. But for me, it falls solely at the feet of the board, which I know we'll come on to discuss. But I know there's folk screaming for Rodgers to go, which I can partially understand, but I find it hard to apportion any blame anywhere other than the board. You've got a manager that's come out. I think I actually said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. There can't be another club in world football where the manager has to come out and say, well, if we want to get better, then I'll be here. But if we don't, then they'll need to find somebody else. We get that as Celtic supporters because we understand what he's referencing. But if you take the green tinted specs off and you look at that as a neutral, that is a fucking mental comment for the manager of a football club to make. If we want to get better, then I'll hang about. Sorry, getting off on a tangent there, but for me, the night lies solely at the feet of the board and the lack of activity in the transfer market.
Now, I know that trouble has just arrived in the form of Stephen, but before I give the mic to yourself, Stephen, I just want to read out a little comment I've seen from Brendan Rodgers. He said, "We have to accept it. Congratulations to Kairat. It's a fantastic result for them, but we have missed a huge opportunity. I just want to show the appreciation to the fans. You can't underestimate the travel, finance, the love of the club to be here. We wanted to go through on the pitch to say thank you, but it was always still in the balance. It's a huge disappointment. I always think that investment is great, but investment in whatever you're doing has to be at the right time. At this moment in time, it's a little bit raw. This group of players have given everything. We're obviously limited to what we could have done in the game in moments. The players gave everything. We just couldn't find enough moments of quality. It's very frustrating. We all know where we want to get to. We showed last year the strides I felt we took, but you have to build on that. And finally, the last thing you want to do in football is manufacture your own stress. But all we can do now is look at where we're at as a football club and decide where we want to go. This moment in time, we can still have a very good season." Stephen, the floor is yours.
Listen, kind of carrying on what James was talking about there, this is firmly down to the board at Celtic Football Club and their lack of planning and lack of forward preparation. And we're in the same position every season, year in, year out. I seen a mad stat before it came on that we've lost, 9 out of the 12 qualifying campaigns or something we've been involved in. And it's absolutely disgraceful for a club of our magnitude. And that team, Kairat, is ranked in amongst likes of Derry City and Shelburne, and it's embarrassing. And it's one of these things. Rodgers signposted it throughout this whole pre-season. He wanted the players in for the Portugal trip. Then he kind of reneged on that because he was starting to talk about business takes a wee bit longer than usual. Then he wanted players in for the Como Cup, and it just didn't happen. I feel like this board really have pitchforks out for Brendan Rodgers and are really trying to undermine him at every single opportunity. And Steve McGowan, who's really close with Celtic and always gets all the scoops and reports of players coming in, actually tweeted tonight that Celtic's chickens have come home to roost. So even he's spilling out some frustration because he knows what's happening right now. And the comments that you just read out, Gav, from Brendan's post-match, again, he's subliminally pointing to the board. We've manufactured our own downfall. We haven't invested at the right opportunities. And all this shit about players waiting to come or waiting to see where Celtic end up in the Champions League. Are you trying to tell me players from fucking Royal Antwerp and Go Ahead Eagles are really concerned about if Celtic are going to be competing in the group phase of a Champions League campaign? Absolute bollocks. And see the whole notion that these deals take weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not. It's our board. It takes fucking weeks and weeks and weeks to do anything, to follow up on bids, to follow up on talks. I know people may point and laugh, but one of the things that I read in the last couple of weeks, and look, I know he wasn't in favour at any point in his Celtic career, but Benji Siegrist came out and done a podcast and was talking about the fact that clubs come in for him and the Celtic board didn't even bother to get back to the clubs that bidded, and we're looking at his services, and he's lost over a year of his footballing career. It's an absolute joke, and we're trying to figure out how to change it at Celtic Football Club. And is it protesting? Is it not going to the games? And there was over 300 fans at Kazakhstan tonight following the club. Like 12,000 odd miles, and whatever round trip that may be in miles, is absolutely incredible support. And they get served up shit that was seen tonight. A team bereft of ideas, a coaching staff who didn't have the fucking notion to put 2 strikers on the pitch at extra time. He went leg for leg when Ralston got injured. What was the point? Go 3-5-2, 3-4-3, do something fucking different. Go against the grain. Get Ida involved in the match. Get him doing flick-ons even though he's dog shit. But just get him doing something. Do you know what I mean? The whole team was bereft of ideas. We looked tepid. We looked, there was no determination. Closing down was awful. And to be fair, we got what we deserved in the end. We got what we deserved. And I like seeing these comments coming in for everyone involved. By the way, thanks for joining us tonight. We know it was an impromptu podcast, so we understand there's a lot of competing, with post-match and stuff, so we appreciate you joining us. But it just was disgraceful, mate. And Rodgers, to me, is culpable in a way because he didn't change his tactics. He didn't try anything different. And yes, we had a squad that probably was, as I say, bereft of quality. But in my opinion, we have a squad that's better than the team that we faced. We've got a squad that's been over the course. We've got a squad like with Callum McGregor, with Cameron Carter-Vickers, with Casper Schmeichel, with real core experience. These guys should be able to see a few matches, and it just wasn't good enough. As strange of the doctors kind of agreement there, it's all down to the manager. There was no forward thinking, and the amount of times the camera panned to him and John Kennedy just talking to each other, it's like, just fucking affect something on the pitch. We know we can't really do anything with the transfer activity at the moment. We're going to talk about that, but right now, Kazakhstan, where we were, that get into extra time, that team were out on their feet, and he didn't have the fucking bright ideas of putting pace at the top end of the pitch. I don't care if these players, Kenny and Yamada, won't make it in the long run, but just get them involved, get them in around the box, get balls into the box, do something creative. But no, we're in the final 5 minutes, and Carter-Vickers was labouring on the ball. Scales can't pass out left back. My mind's all over the place, Gav. I come on because I want to defend my frustration, but I hope I'm articulating it well. But I'm absolutely fuming. I'm disgusted in what I've seen tonight.
I think the two of these guys below me are both equally right in what they're saying. Like, James I'm very much with James. This is firmly, for me, on the board. All of this is the board and the club have done this for decades now, managing this decline. We rise above it sometimes, talk about things under Ange. You've got your big moments, even with Lennon in his first tenure when we played Barcelona. We have these big moments, but then the board does everything they possibly can to suck the fucking life straight out of it. And we get to this point where it is managed decline, and we are now fucking down to the bare bones going into this tie. Excuse me. And it's all on the board. But at the same time, I have to agree with Stephen as well, because there has to be something that the manager can do. But then I want to argue against that, Stephen, because if you're going to, and I've said this before, I can't remember how long ago, but it was probably when Rodgers first came in. If you're going to sign a manager like Brendan Rodgers, you have to back that manager and what he does. You don't pay £2.5 million a year, whatever it is, to Brendan Rodgers and bring him in for a style of football and a formation and tactics that he wants to play, and then tie his two hands behind his back, chop his cock off, and tell him to go piss in the wind. You have to fucking back the guy. If the guy's going to play a rigid 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, whatever it is you want to call it, and he's not going to play two up top, you can't then just give him fucking dross as four fucking project fucking strikers. And I get what you're saying, Stephen, especially when you're taking Tierney off and you put Scales as a left back, that's prime opportunity time. Get Ralston off because he's fucking injured and we're bursting his balls, and go three at the back. But Rodgers doesn't play three at the back, and we all know that for years now. So why is the board and the club putting Rodgers into a situation where he's got no players to be able to change a game to his liking? Because if you're going to hire a manager like Brendan Rodgers, you have to back him in every way that he wants backed, which is to believe in his system, his style, and fucking get the players that he needs. Doesn't matter how much he spent last year. Doesn't matter how good of an eye we think that he's got for signing players. Adam Ida's pish, Engels is pish, Trusty's pish. The guy fucking justified all three of those signings is playing good parts last season in the fucking Champions League and proved that they were worth the money, considering how much money you make out of the Champions League. We can sit here and admit that all three of them probably not good enough consistently. But he's fucking at least justifying it to himself and to the club. So back the fucking guy. Bring the players in that he's wanting, because it's doing no fucking help to anybody. What we're going to do, fucking get Brendan Rodgers to sign on a 12-month deal so we know that he's got 2 years.
Brendan's away. He's away. It's done.
Let's hypothetically pretend that he signs a 12-month extension this week, last month, whatever it was. We just get to next summer and he's got 12 months to go. Better not sign any players, better not back him. It's a fucking moot point. Our manager's always going to leave. And when we all sit here and say that the club make 90% of the fucking signings, what difference does it make to the club who the fucking manager is? We're short of 3 wingers. We're short of a number one striker. We're short of a left-back option to rotate with a known injury-prone Kane Tooney. We're short of an adequate right-back, considering that we all know fucking Tony Ralston's, no offence to the guy, who plays with all the heart in the world, same as Taylor, same as Scales, but they're just not fucking good enough. We know for years that Ralston's not going to be the number one right back. So why do we persist with him as the backup option when things like now, where Alistair Johnston's now injured and out for 3 months, and we're now having to rely on Anthony Ralston? I mean no slight on the guy, but we should have been bringing somebody else. And I don't know if they're ever going to be good enough, but let's take Donovan as the example for the most recent ones now. These guys should have been taking the opportunity from Anthony Ralston 3 years ago, and Ralston showing the door, because we know he's not going to fucking make it. Why do we persist with this shite all the fucking time to the point where it actually blows up in our fucking faces? It's mental.
James, can I ask you a question?
No.
I know that you were going to say something.
No.
I don't mean to take the wind out yourselves, but after the first leg with a disappointment, everybody was saying, or a lot of people were saying, the Celtic fans, this side have got enough to beat that team. Now, for me, the evidence was in front of my eyes at Parkhead. We were quite toothless. So I felt that was the answer there. But now we've had a second bite at the cherry, and we've still come up fruitless. So I think the answer to that question is an emphatic no. So I think you probably agree with me, but I kind of building on that is, where are we now as a club right now? Because we're going down to Europa League. How much momentum have we lost as a club from missing that step of maintaining at the Champions League standards?
Well, as Stephen says, all these tens of players that we had lined up to sign as soon as we made the Champions League tonight, that won't be happening anymore, will it? If you opt to believe that route. Look, it might be, I was going to say it might be controversial. It definitely isn't controversial. But in my opinion, our board's aim is to be a nod ahead of Rangers. Europe does not come into the equation. Europe is a bonus. As long as we're a nod ahead of Rangers, then everything's fine. Everything's all good. At the moment, domestically, Rangers are ranked rotten. I still think they'll give us a hard game on Sunday. If I'm being honest, obviously the night plays into it. I don't think we'll beat them on Sunday. I would fancy a draw. That's no because I think they're any great shakes. I think they've looked awful. But when you see that forward line, I mean, Yang wouldn't get a game for Kairat Almaty. That experiment was done 6 months ago. The manager knows it was done 6 months ago. Again, you go back to his comments about him being a starting winger now. James Forrest, nae harm to the guy, great servant and all the rest of it that goes with it. He just can't play every game now. But again, that's something we've known for long enough. Adam Ida, since he signed, hasn't hit the heights. He looks like an absolute cart horse the last few months. Shin Yamada probably looks to be a club signing. I wouldn't write him off just yet, but for what I've seen him, I keep hearing he's dead quick and he's really strong. I've not seen it. He came on a couple of games in the league. It was at Falkirk and then up at Pittodrie. He didn't get a kick. Then he plays at the weekend. He scores the goal that was offside, but apart from that, pretty anonymous. Johnny Kenny, a bid in for Bolton. Was it Bolton? It was Bolton, wasn't it? We set an asking price at £1 million. Bolton didn't follow up with a £1 million offer. A couple of weeks later, he signed a contract extension. That doesn't compute in my head. Callum Osmond, brought in, told he wasn't a B team signing. He's played one game for Celtic and it was in the B team. So I just don't get it. Inamura, clearly not a Rodgers signing. You could judge that from his comments when he signed, and then obviously coming out and saying about the defensive side. He looked good at the weekend. I had my hands up, I admit that. But if the manager doesn't fancy him, then he's not going to play. The manager has a final say. Signed a guy for Man City, fucking one of the best sides in the world with the best coaching setup, arguably the best coach ever. He's not fit enough to kick a ball for Celtic as of yet. Then there was all the rumours that went with him about refusing to play for the B team if it is to be him. So, Kieran Tierney, that was a kind of, I know that split a lot of fans. I thought Kieran Tierney was awful tonight. He just doesn't look fit. There was a moment right at the start. He looked as if he was running in treacle. and the boy, he's trying to shield the ball out for a corner. The boy manages to catch up with him and keep the ball in play. Look, Tierney's a good signing, but if you're going to do that, we sat here last year knowing that Tierney was coming in, and
James, we knew Tierney was coming in before he even went to Sociedad on loan. That was everybody in the Doug knew that he was coming back here after his Arsenal contract.
No, absolutely.
That's how fucking pre-planned that shit is.
Aye, no, exactly. You're making a point on me. But what I was going to say is, with Tierney coming in, we know his injury problems, so you know you're going to have an adequate left back, at least as a backup, which is why I know Taylor split opinion, but that's why probably a lot of us would have signed Taylor up to be his backup, because he was kind of reliable, I suppose. But now we're playing Liam Scales at left back, and it's something that me and Stephen advocated for about 2 years ago or something, 18 months, 2 years ago, whenever it was, when Greg Taylor was at his worst, and we were shot down in flames for that idea. But fast forward 2 years, £100 million in the bank, in a Champions League playoff, we've got Liam Scales at left back because we've not got an adequate replacement. Tony Ralston, you know my views on Tony Ralston, I've moaned about him for long enough. He's still there. He's no good enough. He's never going to be good enough. He's a good lad. He tries all the rest of it. He's no good enough. He's simply no good enough. So that is why I cannot apportion any of the blame to the manager, to be honest. It lies solely at the board for me. I fully take on board what you were saying about he could have changed it. He could have went two up front. And it was something, I think it was at half-time and extra time when Luke McCowan came on. I was sitting and I'm thinking, who's on the bench? Paolo Bernardo, nah. Shin Yamada, no a game changer, it doesn't look like. Johnny Kenny, probably no a game changer either. Luke McCowan. And I said in the chat, at least he'll shoot. And to be fair to him, he comes on and he does shoot the deflected shot that the keeper saves. That was a guy that was signed for Dundee to come in as a squad player. We're playing a Champions League playoff game, and I'm looking at him as the difference maker on the bench. And they hamper the boy, he's been brilliant. But fucking hell, is that how far we've sunk? And I've totally just gone off on tangents, but it just isn't good enough. And I know the frustration, I've read the frustration that lies with the manager. It was the same last week as well. And watching it last week, as you said, Gav, I really didn't have any confidence coming into the night, having seen it. I think we would have all probably agreed after watching Adamida and obviously his fitness issues, we would have played Maida up front. And the reason we would have played Maida up front is because the guys that are on the bench that we're talking about coming on to change the game, they aren't good enough. They aren't a better option than playing our best winger up front that missed a sitter. Well, probably harsh, but he missed a really good chance with the last kick of the last game. He missed a fucking sitter the night, right enough. But just when you factor everything in as well, with the season book rises, Newcastle game, everything that we've covered, I can't lay the blame anywhere else other than the board. Honestly, I think the only thing that we've got to look forward to at this point is we've probably got to get emails dropping in our inbox tomorrow about fucking Adidas Europa League training range. That's how much Celtic can read the room now. So I ran over, I suppose. I don't even know what the question was, but but there we go.
Stephen, I guess one question I've got for yourself is, where do we go from here in terms of, this is a massive, massive cataclysmic disappointment to go out the Champions League. So how does this shape our complexion for the rest of the season? Well, obviously, we've got the domestic challenge just to win another league, and if we can do a double or a treble, we'll find out. Obviously, the chance between now and the 2nd of September to sign whatever quality we can, and against the other chances to test ourselves against whatever opposition we come up against in the Europa League. But I think we can all agree unanimously that at the end of the season, no matter what we achieve, Brendan Rodgers will be gone, and then we're going to have a transition to a new manager, maybe a new style of play, again without a director of football to oversee that kind of that change and from one boss to another boss. Sometimes you just don't know quite what you're going to get. So where do we go from here in terms of like positivity, in terms of ambition for the club? What can we achieve so far from the remainder of this season?
Well, I think Celtic in the Champions League is going to greatly affect our season, and probably more of a negative way than a positive way, to be honest. I think the transfer business that the board had planned is probably going to go through. I know the Balakisha deal is probably sealed. I know the loan from Baca Juniors, a left back, is probably going to come in. But I don't think we're going to go on a splurge where we're talking 4 or 5 players coming in. I can't see that happening anymore. So you might see another kind of period of Manny's decline. In terms of the cover of the Champions League losses, I believe that we might sell Dyson Maeda or someone of note to cover the loss of the Champions League money. By all accounts, and look, this might be controversial, Dyson's been fucking trunks since the start of the season. So in my opinion, just at this moment in time, he'd be no great miss. And it's probably just frustration talking, and in the long run, obviously, but it just looks like to me that, whatever's happening behind the scenes, that his head's just not in it at the moment. I'm not a body language expert or claiming to be, but just my opinion. Yes, the domestic stuff, we have to aim for a treble. I think Roger said that last season, that a treble is success for Celtic. He was raging that he lost the trophies that he did, and he only got the domestic double in both seasons so far. So I'm guessing he'll be aiming for that. But the Europa League, like, maybe when we're 4 or 5 games deep into it, we might get excited by going on a run, and I kind of not forget, but kind of put this in the back burner until next season. But then again, that takes the eyes off where the blame's to lie here at the Celtic board. We get distracted by all this stuff and kind of lose focus on what really the issues are at Celtic Football Club. We're a club that probably needs a director of football to kind of have that cohesion. When managers leave and that transition becomes easier. We need a new recruitment team. We need the stadium upgraded. We need the team upgraded. There's a lot of players who became stale and I think became far too comfortable. And that probably leads to the manager being upgraded as well. I can see... I know that, Rand, but it's Celtic's board. It happens. We're used to that. But I can see this whole period leading to, obviously, Rodgers' change at the end of the season, and his comments about not being a manager to maintain is coming home. We're just maintaining the status quo, albeit without the Champions League football behind us, and it's just a really depressing situation tonight. And I know we're getting a lot of comments from, obviously, Sevco fans and people of different, supporters, and that's fine. We knew that was going to happen. That's fair enough. We can take it. But it's just, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer right now, Gav, because I feel really deflated. I don't see, whether the optimism was there if we go through the Champions League that Rodgers would get the quality he was talking about. His pre-match press conference yesterday, he was smiling at the fact that new players are coming in. I can tell you one thing, that smile will be wiped from his face when he gets home to Glasgow tomorrow and he gets told you're only getting Saratsi and Balakwisha, and that's the only 2 leads you're getting, unless you have to sell one of the first team players again. So, there's going to be a lot of events happening, I think, over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the Glasgow Derby game coming up here will be interesting. They're in a harbour run of form, but it's just tonight I can focus on. It's just my frustration, and I can see in the comments people are frustrated as well, and it's really hard to get my points across, so I hope I'm making sense, but the domestic stuff's great, mate, but fuck me, Europe is the benchmark, and we've totally failed yet again.
Guys, McGinty, we're talking about asking the same players continuously to go back to the well. We need a massive influx of players and quality of players as well. Somebody said it in the comments earlier on. Even just for this season domestically, it's still a massive requirement for us to bring in fresh blood, and people of a certain quality as well. Otherwise, we're going to see that managed decline. I think what we saw, somebody also said 2025 has been pushed for Celtic, and I think probably everybody can agree that the highest point of the Ange era in the Brendan Rodgers second time round was how far we got last season in the Champions League, getting that far ahead against Bayern Munich. In order to climb that peak again, it's going to be so difficult, because we've got players who we depended on before, and they're looking around saying, well, if you're not bringing anybody in, then how am I meant to pick myself up? And that might sound unprofessional, but that's psychology. Whenever you're a seasoned pro, you want to see the ambition reciprocated by your manager, by your board. it's going to be really, really difficult for us to expect those players to pick things up to maintain the standards in the squad whenever we're not seeing that quality. So how important is it for you as a fan to see the new faces come in and not just the usual project dross, proper quality signings?
It would be fucking nice to have seen them about 6 weeks ago, Gavin. To be honest, we've all said it and we all have the same sentiment. What I don't understand is the mentality from the club. And again, they've done this year after year after year, even with Champions League qualification in the bag, with automatic entry. We still leave major signings to the last week in the window for some fucking reason. Before we had the automatic entry, we used the same excuse that we're using just now at times, that, you know, some players are waiting to see what competition we're going to be in. Fuck that shit. There's clubs of a similar size across Europe and clubs smaller than us across Europe signing the key players that they need and spending multiples of millions more than we're spending. Last month, weeks ago, months ago, it's only us that are sitting here making deals literally drag out for 13 fucking months for this fucking Michelangelo Balakowiska guy, whatever his fucking name is.
McGinty, not to cut in what you're saying, but do you think there is an act of sabotage the Rodgers here?
That's another tangent, Stephen, but it's a question that definitely should be asked, and I think there is an element of that. I think Peter Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers don't see eye to eye and don't get along. That was an issue the first time around, quite clearly. Rodgers is more of a Desmond signing, if for lack of a better term for it, sort of thing. And I think that's probably playing out in the background again. I feel like Rodgers was blatantly lied to when he came back the first time about recruitment being different. We leaned in on, funny enough, the time that Ange had free reign when it was Don Mackay that was in charge, and we actually looked like a proper outfit trying to do some fucking signings. We leaned into that as if Rodgers would then be convinced that we were doing things different, but it's all went back to fucking the usual shite. I think there is elements of sabotage, but you need to put your conspiracy hat on for that one if you want to go down that route a bit too much. But I think it's probably true to a degree, Stephen, to be fair. But yeah, Gavin, back to the players. I don't understand why we're sitting here going into this game when it's one qualifying game and the minimum guarantee was European football, why we've only spent £3 million so far, and we are considerably weaker than we were last season in many, many areas of the pitch. We've not strengthened remotely in a single position, other than maybe like arguing that the starting left back is better, but overall the left back position is actually weaker because there's no fucking backup. But we are arguably weaker in almost 80% of that squad, I think, in position-wise. And yet we have the minimum guarantee of Europa League. We could have went out and spent 20 million so far this season and had the players needed for Europa League, and then see if we did get through the night, which would have been a better chance if you spent £20 million on 3 or 4 players. We could then have went and spent another £10-15 million on another 2 players that would be at our level Champions League marquee signings for our level. I'm not asking us to go sign a fucking Messi or start fucking hijacking players off of Liverpool and PSG, of course not. But somebody who could step in that's a wee bit better than the traditional players. But there's no reason why Sarachi couldn't have been signed 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. There's no reason why the Antwerp winger couldn't have been signed 13 months ago. We dragged our heels. He eventually got injured for 12 weeks, I think it was. We got to January and we could have signed him then if we wanted to, but we didn't. We signed Jota, and we all probably would have taken Jota in a heartbeat over this guy, no doubt about it. But that's an opportunity that presented it. But we never bothered to think and plan ahead and say, actually bring this guy in as well, because we actually do want him. We then spent the entirety of this summer not bothering to get this guy whilst we're selling Nicholas Kuhn. And we could have brought this guy. We knew this tie was happening. We know that, as James says, we're playing and relying on fucking James Forrest and Yang, 2 players who shouldn't even be in the matchday squad at this point. And I mean no disrespect to James Forrest, who's been an absolute legend and servant of this club. He deserves all the respect he can get. But in 2025, going into this qualifying round, we shouldn't be relying on James Forrest playing every fucking game so far this season. It's fucking pathetic.
See, just to pick up, sorry, Gav, but see, just to pick up on what you were saying there, Stephen, I think there is clearly some form of disconnect, to put it lightly, between Rodgers and well, Peter Lawwell, but also obviously the board in wider terms. But this isn't anything new. I don't think it's personal to Rodgers. I mean, look, when Ange came in, obviously we're coming off the back of the COVID season, but when Ange came in, we played Midtjylland in the qualifier. We are back for Ralston, Beaton, Stephen Welsh and Greg Taylor. Beaton then gets sent off and we brought on a promising youngster called Dane Murray, who 4 years later remains a promising youngster and has barely kicked a ball in the in-between times. We seen Callum McGregor play fullback against, I want to say Cluj, but it could have been AEK Athens, but I think it was Cluj. We seen Owen O'Connell playing against Astana, and we seen the almost annual outing for Nir Beaton playing centre-half in the qualifiers. This isn't anything new, and it's at a point that I made, I think it was actually between the two legs. When we qualify for the Champions League, we don't qualify because of the board. We qualify in spite of the board. This idea that we've got 15 players lining up, and if we were sitting here with the Champions League music on in the background, we'd be announcing signings left, right and centre on Twitter. It just... I think you're doing some amount of mental gymnastics to get to that point. I think also, and I said it in the chat as well, this notion that players are waiting to see...
No.
It just isn't true. If that held any water, and the example I used in the chat, and I only use it because it's the most recent one, Nicholas Kuhn signed for a team in Italy, top 5 league and all the rest of it, but he signed for a mid-table team in Italy with no European football. The notion that players are waiting for Celtic, like you said, Royal Antwerp, Go Ahead Eagles, whoever it is, Celtic aren't going to fucking Bayern Munich and saying, oh, can we sign one of your players? Oh no, they're going to be playing Champions League football. Let's not kid ourselves on or try and console ourselves with that idea. Exactly, McGinty, if you pay money, players will play for money. This romanticised notion that players are coming in, if Celtic had Champions League football, they'll sign in a heartbeat. It's a lot of shite. Are you honestly trying to tell me that players are signing for 8 games a season and that's the only reason they're here? It just is not. It does not wash. It's just not true.
There's two examples I'd like just before you move on there that backs you up there, James. Is Giakoumakis and Juranovic, two controversial signings, and especially how they left, sort of thing, and stories. And this is all we can go by, of course, but there must be a reason why Don Mackay only lasted about 3 months. But stories are that when Giakoumakis came in, and this is actually from Giakoumakis himself not too long ago, that he was basically given a gentleman's agreement that I'll accept the 12k a week that you're going to offer me, but he wanted 20, 25. He knew he was that kind of player. He had the confidence in himself. Now, we all sat here a couple of years ago when he first signed, and went, maybe, look how old he is. He's only had one good season last year, with VV Venlo, or whatever the fuck it is in the Dutch league. We all debated Dutch defenders. Is he as good as we think he could be? Don't know. He accepted that challenge, and he came in and says, right, I'll take your 12k a week, but when I prove myself, I want a better pay. And the club at the time says, of course, we'll honour that gentleman's agreement and all the rest of it. Remember, that would have been Don Mackay that would have told him that. A year later, the story now, but a year later, he chapped the door of whoever it is in the hierarchy that deals with this shit. It says, I want my new deal. I've proven to myself, look how many goals he scored in that season, backup striking or rest, and he's still fucking doing the business. And what did Celtic offer him? £1,000 more a week. That's what we offered him. And no wonder, fair enough, he probably wasn't Angie's favourite player either to a degree. He wanted to be starting ahead of Kyogo. That was never going to happen. But I think the money issue was probably the icing on the cake for him to go, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. The other one, Josip Juranovic, as you said there, James, top 5 league and all the rest of it. Of course, Germany, Bundesliga. He's a Polish. Was he Polish?
Polish.
Croatian.
The Croatian story I say signed for Warsaw.
Fair enough. We can't say that people would want to willingly play in the SPFL over the Bundesliga. I get that, but he signed for Union Berlin. They had one season of good football in German football. They've not really been anywhere near the races at that level at time. Do you know how much he signed for Union Berlin? I don't think he's kicked a ball in anger in European football. He signed for them for £26,000 a week. Now, somebody of Juranovic quality and caliber and stature in the game that we've fucking signed, to me, as a starting right back at the age of 27, 28, he is more than worth 26k a week to us. That's the sort of money you should be paying, 26k a week to your starting right back. Yet we're paying Alistair Johnston, I think, about 14 or 15k, and probably praying that he doesn't fucking get fucking big eyeballs at the EPL at some point. We need to pay these players more money. If you pay them money, they'll fucking play for you, as James says. Sorry, pal.
But it's no, you're spot on, mate. See, just to even strip it back and just kind of simplify it. See, if you want to see the simplest form of this board's failings, look at the Kyogo transfer. It's obviously known that Kyogo was wanting at the door, if not for the start of the season, at least before January. He should have been replaced in January. The manager said as much. He wanted a replacement in January. If Kyogo wasn't replaced in January, we should have had somebody lined up to come in through the door in the first week of the transfer window, and we didn't. We've signed 2 strikers and gave one a new deal, and they've barely been seen. They'll probably barely be seen in their time at Celtic. But that's the prime example for me. And as I say, it didn't come out the blue. If you think that the Jota thing was sprung on them as a surprise and that Kyogo had to go, then as I've said umpteen times on here before, I've got some magic beans I can sell you. But as I say, it should have been lined up that a replacement was coming in the front door. We're now sitting a week away for September, and the guy that was Kyogo's understudy is now our number 1 striker and is clearly miles off it. And if that, I honestly don't think that it's possible to defend that. It's just gross negligence, it's incompetence. And for me, like I've said before, the board's aim is to be slightly better than Rangers. If that's the case, then they're happy. Rangers look a bit of a basket case, and who says us that's been on here moaning like fuck for 45 minutes. But they look like a bit of a basket case, and we've got the chance to go 9 points ahead in them at the weekend. So the board will see that. If we win on Sunday, I have no doubt the board will be sitting going high-fiving each other saying, what a start to the season, this has been great. And when we're supporters looking for outside in, paying thousands of pounds every year and just blindly paying it, and yet here we sit again feeling massively shortchanged with absolutely nothing to show for what we'd invested in the club, time and money.
Do you guys, any of you, this is wildly optimistic, do you guys expect any type of dialogue coming from the board at all?
We deserve it, but don't expect it.
I guess the other thing I was going to ask was what forms of demonstration do you might expect from some of the Celtic fans outside the stadium, inside the stadium?
This is the thing, right? And I'm all for protesting and demonstrations. I know the Green Brigade did like a banner thing at our last home game there against Livingston, but it all falls in deaf ears. Unfortunately for me, there's not going to be a change at boardroom level unless, as a club, we get took over. Dermot Desmond seems to be held as like this god, this matriarch who looks after the club, but he hasn't invested a single penny into our club since 2006 from the last share issue.
He's lost the path.
Yeah, of course he has. But there's not going to be a drastic change. Like we, as supporters, yes, we can boycott merchandise, but for every 2 supporters that boycott a new jersey, 5 or 6 more supporters are banning anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it needs to be a conscious effort by everyone. And unfortunately, for me, there's no buy-in for that at this moment in time. There is still supporters, and it's fair enough. Everyone has their own opinion and they're entitled to it. There are still supporters out there within our fan base who are happy being above Rangers, who are happy with the status quo and domestic bliss. And yes, to a certain extent, I'm ecstatic with it. But my bar is European level. Rodgers came in and talked about that from the very first day, to progress this club at Champions League level, and not just to be there to make up the numbers. We're not even there this season to do that. It shows you how far we've fallen as a club, both competitively in Europe and also our stature in European football. We lost to a team on penalty kicks, as I said at the start of this podcast, who are ranked in the same UEFA rankings as the likes of Derry City, Shelbourne, and other mediocre teams like that. No disrespect. But regardless, we should have beat that team tonight. We should have had enough on the pitch to do that, but we didn't. The boardroom level thing, I want change. Of course I want change. I want new, fresh ideas. Don Mackay was that person. And he, to be fair, for the 8 days he was in charge, he brought some fresh things in. But it seems like the boardroom got really freaked out by that and went, nah, we need to go back to what we were doing. There's a lot of dinosaurs. There's a lot of people who've been in position for 15 plus years. You know, Peter Lawwell, Brian Wilson, Chris Mackay, Michael Nicholson. There's Sharon Brown. You can rhyme off a few more. They've been there for years and years and years, and their seats are comfortable. And see this fucking pathetic shit at the AGM when no one has the balls to actually ask questions. What's the point of having an AGM? You're meant to hold your board accountable. You're meant to hold them and say what's going on at our club. We as a fan base deserve to know that. There has been no communication from Michael Nicholson, I believe, in over 1,000 days. I stole that off another podcast. That's not my own fact. I just heard that. And, you know, it's disgraceful. And yes, I know clubs say, or supporters say, why do we need to hear from the chief executive? We need to hear from him to know what the fucking plan is for the future. We're just coasting along right now. We are coasting along with what we've been doing since Martin O'Leary came in 2000. And ever since that, it's been the same old shit. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. We can't go above £6 million on a player because we shit our pants. We spent £6 million in the year 2000. Times move on. This club has stood still. This club has shortchanged our supporters. They put up the prices of season tickets year in, year out. People struggle to put foods on the table for their family, but they still manage to take them to Celtic games for their kids or for themselves or for their own well-being. It's a fucking absolute disgrace. The club is run like a shit show. The board should be hounded out, but it will never happen. And there's not enough buy-in from the majority of supporters to make a change. So unfortunately, we're stuck with the likes of Peter Lawwell, we're stuck with the likes of his wee son, Michael Nicholson, and we're stuck with that chief financial officer, Chris Mackay, who's another prick. So we're just going to be in the same position as we were this season, next season, and the season after. And we'll wonder why the likes of Brendan Rodgers leave us. We'll wonder why players leave us after the first protocol. And we'll wonder why we can't close deals. It's a fucking joke. This board is a joke. Take it away, Gav.
Just before James comes in with his comment, can I just point out we have got 392 people live in the house right now watching this podcast. Thank you so much for that. Can I just point out that the Endless Celts podcast, we've got 1,990 subscribers so far to this podcast. Please hit the subscribe button to get us to over the 2,000 mark. It'd mean the world to us. James, what were you going to say?
Mate, the way we've been going on, I'd be fucking unsubscribing the night, man. No, just to pick up on Stephen's point about the board communication thing, and I'll give McGinty's due. It's something that McGinty's went on about for a while as well. And like yourself, I've always been of the impression. Honestly, but I've always thought, why do we need a CEO to come out and talk to us? Why do we need the chairman to put out statements and all the rest of it? But when you've got the situation that we've had this summer where Brendan Rodgers and even the captain has essentially been human shields for the board. You've got him getting asked every single week about questions that he simply can't answer, and he said that in the press conferences. Brendan Rodgers has made it abundantly clear to everybody that he knows the team isn't where it should be. He said it prior to the game, and then when Gav read his comments out, when we first came on, he's obviously made it clear after the game. So that is why, as I said, I struggle to blame the manager. The manager knows the team wasn't good enough. Either should have been enough and all the rest of it. But hand in heart, can anybody look at that forward line and fancy us against a fucking junior team? I mean, Yang, if we do not have a player in the academy better than Yang, then we'd be as well shutting the academy down. That is where I'm at with Yang. Yang should never kick a ball for Celtic again. I think I said that weeks ago. Yeah. But when you've got the manager constantly getting asked these questions, and even Callum McGregor was asked as well, that's when surely the board are looking at that and going, right, maybe we need to step in. And as I mentioned before the last time I was on, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, when the window closed, Celtic put out a statement basically apologising to fans for no doing enough business. We wanted to do business. It was difficult. As I said before, the COVID, the kind of hangover for COVID was used as an excuse, amongst other things. Other teams in Europe weren't spending. Celtic put this out in a statement. We don't have any of the excuses to fall back on. Clubs in Europe are spending. COVID's a fucking thing in the distant past, in football terms now. There is no excuse. We know the money is sitting in the bank, so there can't be an excuse, and it's shit to keep asking the manager every single week, are you signing anybody? Do you want players? The manager said weeks ago, months ago, he wants players. The manager said in January he wanted a Kyogo replacement. We're a week away since September. We still don't have a replacement for Kyogo. Our best striker is still also our best winger, who just so happens to be fucking miles off it now. But there is absolutely nothing in that forward line that I can look at and go, he'll win us the game. Get into the game on Sunday. Who are we looking at there and going, aye, he'll do well. He's a game changer. Nicholas Kuhn, for as shite as he was for large parts, in that 6-month spell, he was really, really good. Jota, unfortunately, obviously injured. He could have been that guy, but he didn't get injured yesterday. He got injured well before the transfer window opened. Daisen Maeda has been that guy in the past. As it stands just now, he's miles off it. So I look at it from all different angles, and I honestly just struggle to put any of the blame on the manager. I don't know I'm labelling the point, I've said it umpteen times, and people will use Engels, Ida and Trusty against him, but like we referenced earlier, the manager was back last year. He then backed that up with delivering a double. We were a penalty shootout away for a treble, albeit we were poor in the final, and we made the knockout stages of the Champions League. What more can he do, aside from obviously winning that penalty shootout in the cup final? What else can he do to say, I'm the man to lead us forward in Europe? He done it last year. We were a ball here away for taking Bayern Munich, and nobody gave us a prayer against Bayern Munich. We were a ball here away for taking them into extra time. Then we get to the summer. Kyogo's away 6 months ago, and fucking Thingway Kuhn left at the start of the window, and we still haven't replaced any of them. I look at that forward line and I just think, where is the goals coming from? And that is honestly how I just struggle to lay any of the blame anywhere else.
You're bang on, mate. You're fucking bang on. McGinty, swear, go on a rant. Come on.
Have I not ranted enough yet for you? Fuck's sake.
That's a good point for James. So obviously the Huns are in dire straits right now. Are we expected to beat them this weekend? And if we do, where is it going to come from? Who's going to be the performers?
I don't think we can be confident going into Sunday at this rate. I think our football has been pretty fucking dire for a long period of time, and this is where Rodgers can take some of the blame as well. Even last season when we did have the likes of Kuhn to give us some extra width and stuff on the wider areas, we still looked miles off it at times at the second half of last season. So Rodgers can take some blame. As I said earlier, if he doesn't have a plan B in a second way of playing football, then you need to back him properly for his first and foremost way. It's the same with Ange, even at Spurs. If you're going to sign somebody like Ange or Rodgers who are so fucking hell-bent on my way or no way, then you have to fucking back these managers fully. We've not done it with Rodgers pretty much at all. Again, we can argue the three big signings money-wise last year and all the rest of it, but generally speaking, he's not been back properly not been back since he's came back to the club. As James says, 2 years ago, we had to release a statement. It was that fucking poor. You know, Lawwell Jr. and Joe Dungeon got the fucking boot at the team a year ago, year and a half ago, because it was that fucking poor as well. You know, the heads theoretically have rolled because of how poor our recruitment's been. And yet Rodgers is still sitting here, as James says, press conference after press conference now, screaming out for help and support. If you want to show ambition, back me. Give me the players we need. And I've got a lot of time for Rodgers just now because he's playing the game very well. He's clearly putting all the blame at the board. He could take some because of, again, the no plan B thing. But I'm still going to defend him and say if you're going to hire a guy like Rodgers who's adamantly having one way of playing football, you have to fucking support that. You don't spend all that money and then try and dictate the football onto him. You may as well just fucking give me John Kennedy at this fucking point. But you have to back. No, when but you have to back the guy. So when it comes to Sunday, we've been that poor for so many fucking months, and we are arguably worse now, football-wise. No energy, no urgency, no tempo. You can blame the manager if you want. You can blame the lack of decent players that can actually play his system. But we're going to go into Sunday with a team that is below par against a Rangers side who, yes, under different managers, have shown that they know how to get the better of us. And it's usually by fucking dominating our midfield, because our midfield, generally speaking, is powder puff. And yet we're going to go into this again and expect that we're not going to get fucking beat. Nah. To me, I want us to win, of course. I don't want to lose anything to them. But I'm not going into Sunday confident at all, because we've let ourselves down so badly. The team is screaming out for players in all aspects of the fucking pitch. The only place we're not screaming out for a player for is probably goalkeeper. But we could do with another left back, we could do with another right back, we could do with another centre back, we could do with a fucking big bastard Wanyama type midfielder that James loves. And I agree, we're fucking screaming out for it for fucking years now. We can need another left winger, we need another right winger, we need at least 2 fucking strikers, because the 4 that we have are fucking useless. Literally, we are screaming out for every fucking position and we're not doing dick about it. So Sunday, Gavin, no, I'm not confident. I'm not confident at all.
Is Jamie Vardy looking quite tantalising?
Fuck off, Gav. Fuck off, honestly. Fuck
By the way,
off.
can I just say, we're now over 2,000 subscribers, so thank you so much to everybody. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Appreciate that.
Jamie Vardy.
I know you're saying that tongue-in-cheek, and you have to be saying that tongue-in-cheek. No fucking chance. Like, I don't know where we go from here with signings. As I said, I think all the high-profile players are probably off the table, and will probably be served up the squad signings for the new manager coming in next year. That's firmly where I believe that the club are going to aim towards, and have players in for next summer. As I said, it's been a great post-match reaction tonight. As I said, very impromptu, and a lot of reactions, a lot of emotion, a lot of people venting their frustration, and it's good to see. We like that on the platform, people's comments coming in, all different opinions, and that's fair enough. I know Strange love the doctors on the manager saying it's his fault, that type of stuff, and it's just good to see different opinions in the comments like we all have here. It's just one of these things. I know we're going to cover the Glasgow Derby game on Friday when I'm on the podcast, but see, at this moment in time, I can't even look forward to it, Gav. And I said this earlier on in the podcast. My mind's it's too engrossed in what happened this evening. I was actually on my phone checking up some comments that Rodgers was saying, and he was talking about, there was a lot of competitiveness in the team and honesty and determination, but unfortunately at Champions League level that's not enough, kind of paraphrasing a bit, but that's kind of what he was saying. And yet again, he's come out and said he doesn't know about the transfer dealings. So my mind's a wee bit blown by that again. So like, what direction are we going in as a club? Is it worth Rodgers staying? I have no clue, but it's just been a shambles tonight. I know we've had a lot of people on laughing at our expense, and that's fair enough. Fair enough. We'll take it all day. We do the same thing, and when the other side of the city have a shite result, so we can take that in the chin. We Tony Mowbray afro back there, but yeah, Gav, it's just been a horrendous night as a Celtic supporter.
It has been. It's another low that and we had everything in our grasp to get better and to keep that momentum, all that money in the bank, and whatever master plan we had. Well, it's not been revealed to us. It just beggars belief. It really beggars belief. It's not like we're a victim of circumstances where we never had the tools at our disposal to get better as a team. We had it in our grasp. We had the assets to go out and get players and get better, to keep Brendan Rodgers happy, to keep the fans happy, to have an exciting brand of football. But we've really, really fucked it up, and now we need to pick ourselves back up again. It will be a difficult task. But as a football fan, hope is the last thing that leaves you. James, you look as if you've got something to say.
No, I was just going to say, this is where I'd like to see somebody ask it. It'll probably get asked to Rodgers, but again, he's not the man to answer it. What was the plan this summer? because we always get told that we look to come out every window stronger than we went into it and all the rest of the guff that we get fed. But I don't even think the board could tell us that with a straight face. So are we just going to go back to the we tried line? Deals are hard to get done and the stuff we've heard before. But there was frustrations prior to the night, obviously. We've heard the sack the board chance. It's only going to get worse the night. So you'd like to think it obviously won't happen, but you'd like to think we'd get some form of communication, some form of reasoning as to why we're sitting here and it's just not going to happen.
Were you laughing at that guy's avatar, Bill?
No, I was laughing at James with the notion that we're going to get communication. It just makes me laugh. It's just shit. We're never getting it. We're never getting it.
I do expect the fans to communicate more than the board. I actually, when I was doing the podcast last Friday with Ross, I was saying that I fully expect the fans to continue the sack the board chants and to do like banners or whatever. But I think that was kind of kept to a minimum. But now it feels like things have ramped up again, and there's that kind of bad emotion that's going to be in the ground, and I expect to see it. But we've got the international break coming up after the Hunts, don't we?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a bit of time to reflect for the board. That's probably a good timing for them to keep out of the public eye. But Celtic fans, we can't forget. You know what I mean? The disappointment is tangible. It's changed the shape of our season, the direction that we were going in. But we'll find out. But obviously, between now and the 2nd of September, we can try and bring in whoever we can. Guys, we've got 451 people in the building. We've been on for just over an hour. I'd like to say I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed having the comments coming in. I've grateful that you guys could all come in and we could vent and say what we felt. But look, if you're new to the Endless Celts podcast, we do our flagship podcast every Friday night, 8:00. So if you've never watched it before, join us this Friday, and we'll do a preview of the Huns game at Ibrox. But all things considered, I've enjoyed this podcast for tonight. It's certainly not the result. Guys, any final comments before we part?
This was asked a few times in the chat. I think you might have kind of briefly touched on it as well. This is not an Endless Celts going to say this is just me saying it, and obviously it's easily said than done.
My comment for my own.
Yeah, that one I kind of think I don't want to put words in the rest of the guy's mouth. This is just me saying it. It's not the rest of the guys going to say what I'm about to say. It's easy for me to say this. I can simplify this as much as I want, and I know that emotionally it's a hard thing for some people to do. But for years gone by, the question is always asked, what can the fans do? Some people don't like the protesting. Some people don't like us voicing the opinion too loudly in the stands because it takes away from supporting the team. And I understand that, and I get that as well. Some people don't like when we boycott merchandise or season tickets or European games because financially that would hurt the club as well. And if the club are financially hurting, there's going to be less investment in the club the next season and so forth. So there's always a reason not to do something. Can I just say though, for me, the best thing we could do as a collective fan base is not to buy the Europa League tickets. Do not buy them. The club is not going to lose out on money. James has said it a couple of times in this podcast tonight. We all fucking know that the reality of it. We posted 70 odd million at some point last year. The half year results was 67 million or something like that. It's fully expected that it's closer to £100 million in bank. We're still going to get 20-30 million out of the Europa League, regardless of what we do. We are not going to be missing out on any money. Well, we're going to miss out on money, but we're not going to be short of any money by boycotting the Europa League. We're not financially going to hurt the team, but we will send a message to the board. So an empty fucking stand for the Europa League would be fucking ideal for me.
See the flip side of that, and look, I get the sentiment. I know what people said about season books as well. There's people who've been on the waiting list for season book 5-6 years. If you gear up your season book, you're just giving it to somebody else. We've got 40,000 people already bought Europa League tickets, and we don't even know what the draw is through the home cup scheme. So Celtic have already got that sewn up. You can't, well, as far as I'm aware, you can't take a sell off the home cup scheme. The merchandise thing, I 100% agree with, but I mean, somebody must be buying it. It wouldn't be getting released every fucking 2 hours otherwise. So the ticket thing, I can get, but as I say, they've already got 40-odd thousand already paid up tonight, and we've not even seen. We don't even know when the draw is for the Europa League. Through that home cup scheme, the chance that the thing that I thought, and I personally didn't go for the reason. I thought the chance was the Newcastle game. 25 for a friendly is ridiculous. Beyond a joke, considering that used to be free. I thought that was a chance to just no go. And to be honest, I was very, very surprised with just how high the attendance was for that Newcastle game. But the Europa League thing, as much as I get the sentiment, it just won't happen because of so the money's already sewn up, the money's already taken. I don't know if Gav's the same, but I'm on the home cup scheme, so they've already got my money for it.
yeah. Me too. Can I do anything?
I just want to say something before we sign off here. So I came across a quote from the post-match from the Parkhead faithful on Twitter, and this was asked of Brendan. So, given the financial gulf between the Europa League and the Champions League, does that impact at all what you will do between now and the close of the window? And Rogers replied, "I haven't a clue. I really don't know." So that for me tells you everything you need to know.
Scunnered. Right. Look, you might call this a Celtic meltdown tonight, but it's nothing compared to a Huns podcast. We're always far more positive. So let that be the parting thought for tonight. Guys, thoroughly enjoyed it. To everybody in the comments, thank you very, very much. On and upwards, if you can say that with a straight fucking face. Right, cheerio, guys. Good night.